You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. I'm your host, Rachel Christopherson. Each week in this time slot, we take a look at different issues, personalities, and events that affect you in our community. William Shakespeare wrote some of his most popular plays more than 400 years ago. Since then, plays and stage acting have evolved into the contemporary forms we know today. So why would an actor want to go back in time? Here to talk with us about what it means to be a Shakespearean actor are Dave Dempsey and Kaley Milliken from the Tennessee Shakespeare Company. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you,
It's a pleasure.
Rachel.
Thanks for having us.
So what about Shakespeare and his work drew you in as an actor? Kaley, we'll start with you.
I think because it's the hardest thing to do. And there's something about being even just a little bit successful at communicating with an audience through Shakespeare's words that it keeps me coming back. So it's the hardest thing to do. I feel like I learn the most as an actor. I always feel like I grow when I'm working on a Shakespeare play. Yes.
I think Shakespeare is one of the greatest playwrights of all time, and I think will always be one of the greatest playwrights of all time. And so his work always provides an exciting artistic challenge. And for me, Shakespeare gives me an opportunity to be way more articulate than I actually am. So I get a chance to say things that I would love to say, but I personally don't have the language for it. He gives me the words that I need, so it's really fun.
Well, is there special training that's required to become a Shakespearean actor?
I don't know that I would say that it's required. I think it's certainly helpful. Because the language is 400 years old, and we're talking about a playwright who's writing using rhetoric, which was regularly studied during Shakespeare's day, but it's a particular kind of oratory. He's writing in iambic pentameter, so to really spend time training with people who are steeped in that, I think makes a huge difference at the success rate then when you step on stage. To just try to come to it without any help is extraordinarily difficult.
Yeah, I think to do Shakespeare well, to do it in such a way that the audience really is caught up in the story and follows the story, there's a variety of things that you just need to learn as an actor, and really to refresh or learn a lot more about rhetoric, understand his poetic structure. They're really essential. So those things you do have to train yourself to understand and be able to work with. But other than that, acting is acting.
And I don't think those are things that an audience needs to know to experience it on a really beautiful level, but the actor has to know those things in order to make that language come alive in a way that speaks to an audience.
Well, you were both recently involved in TSC's production of Macbeth. Can you describe your roles?
Sure. I played Lady Macbeth, among some other things, and I was also the choreographer for the show. So that, for me, I would say was one of my top 5 bucket list roles. So to get to do that, and to get to do that here for Dan, it was a huge honor. I think I was 5 years old. I spent a part of my childhood in Berlin, Germany, and so my family and we did a lot of traveling while we were overseas. And my parents took us to Stratford. I was 5 years old, which is Shakespeare's birthplace. And all over Stratford, there are these statues of iconic roles from his plays. And one of them was the Lady Macbeth statue, and I had no idea what it was, but it's this woman sort of clutching her hand and looking out into the distance. And I just remember barraging my father with questions about who she was, why did they kill this person. So I was fascinated with her from a really young age. So this for me was sort of 30 plus years in the making.
Yeah, I played 5 different roles, one of which was Duncan, the King of Scotland, who she and her husband murder. So that was interesting. And that was really fun because with each one I got, each character needed a specific physicality, a specific vocal quality. So that was really fun. And I had a great time playing Duncan. And it created a nice little, because we're actually married, so it created an interesting little relationship on stage for me to be, hey, we're going to be your guest tonight. I'm going to be your guest tonight. Oh, you're going to kill me? Oh, that's too bad.
Welcome.
Well, what is the process you both go through to prepare for such emotionally intense roles?
Oh, wow. That's a great question.
It starts with the text. It starts with really getting the text, studying the text. It's more than just memorizing it or just learning it, but it's actually studying it and getting the feel of it, understanding it, knowing what the story is that's in the text that you're saying. And then the text starts to inform so many things. It starts to awaken the imagination, and it starts to get you to understand where this character is coming from. And so then once you start getting the text going, then you can kind of enter into that world. And then you have to find your own personal models to translate these things to, so that you're coming from yourself and not just trying to create some kind of two-dimensional character, but something that has the same complexity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, similarly, for me, it always starts with the text. I start with a process that I learned from Kevin Coleman in the education department at Shakespearean Company, and he calls it dictionary work, and that's literally what it is. I sit down with my travel size Oxford English Dictionary, and I look up at least one word per line. Certainly any word where I'm like, I don't know if I know what this word means exactly. And very often I'll look up words that I use every day, but that I want to get very specific about what the definition actually is. I think one of the ones for me that was really illuminating when we were working on Macbeth, the word courage is actually defined as being brave in the face of one's own fear. That's specifically what courage was. And I was like, oh, wow, and she's using that word here. That really illuminates a lot about what's going on for her. So for me, it really is just sort of climbing into the words and starting there.
Mm-hmm. Well, are there any expectations that you are expected to uphold when performing a classic Shakespeare play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because it's a sort of a double-edged sword there, because certain individuals, people come to see a Shakespeare play with certain expectations. And, some of those you can uphold, and some of those you in some ways shouldn't, because they're sort of misinterpretations of what Shakespeare is really about. Playing a role like Lady Macbeth, even people that don't know Shakespeare that well have heard of that character. So it is challenging.
And even come with a lot of ideas about her without a lot of...
So there are certain things that in a way you need to fulfill, and other things that you need to go against a bit. But the one for me, the big expectation is the audience needs to be able to follow the story. They need to be able to follow the text. So that is a huge expectation, so that they're not sitting back going, "Now, well, we're at Shakespeare," but they're actually getting involved in a story.
Well, Dave, you actually served as the Associate Director of Training at Shakespearean Company in Lenox, Massachusetts, where, Kaley, you served as a company member for 14 years. What about Shakespeare has caused you to stay with his works for so long?
It's always, I'm always discovering something new, no matter how often I look at a play, how often I look at a character. There's always something new to discover. There's always new enlightenment that happens. There's always another challenge. It's forever illuminating.
Yeah. I recently calculated I've done 4 productions of Midsummer Night's Dream, so I've performed that play now over 90 times. Not the same role every time, but I've at least sat through it, listening backstage, and there are lines that I hear for the first time still after 90 times sitting backstage.
I mean, there are things about going out to going into the country and going to a beautiful landscape that you can go over and over and over again. Same landscape, but you look at it, and it does something to you. It wakes up your soul, and Shakespeare's like that. There's always something that really makes you feel more alive and more enlightened with him.
Well, Dave, you actually are in the process of directing As You Like It, which opens at TSC later this month. And Kaley, you're choreographing for the show.
Yeah.
What about the show has sparked an interest in you both?
I have to say, this time looking at As You Like It, the things that really pop out to me, well, the title itself has taken on new meaning, the idea of As You Like It, in terms of letting go of assumptions and biases about gender and about love and about diversity, and really opening up and saying that one of the big things that love does is it allows us to be accepting of differences and actually honor differences. And then often what happens, those differences don't become a separation, they actually become a way of coming together and finding a deeper relationship. And in As You Like It, that's the thing, all the couples that end up together, they all have a very unique relationship that's based on who they are in the world and with each other. That's not, none of the relationships are a cliche. They're all rooted in a reality of being self-possessed and understanding and accepting of who they are and who other people are. That's the beautiful thing about looking at the play this time around. And we're also playing with gender in a new way with this, looking at gender, the way gender is fluid rather than binary. And that's really evident in the play, and I'm highlighting that more and more as we go through rehearsals. So that's the thing that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, I think what Dave said. I think choreography-wise, one of the fun things that we're doing, because the Forest of Arden is a kind of magical, timeless place. And we're working on a set that's very Elizabethan, but how can we create, without special effects, like being in a movie, how can we create some of these sort of timeless, magical feelings within the forest? And so we're doing that with choreography and pulling some famous, iconic American pieces of dance are sort of peppered throughout, so that the audience will suddenly go, oh my God, is that what they're doing? Yes, it is. That's Proud Mary, Tina Turner, happening in the Forest of Arden. So we're having a really good time with that as well. And similarly, to, as Dave talked about with gender, that time also in this forest. Are we in 16th century England, or are we, 15th century England, or are we here today? And the reality is we're in both places. So, yeah.
Well, Kaley and Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having us, Rachel.
Pleasure.
And good luck with As You Like It.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have to take a short break. When we come back, we will discuss the Romeo and Juliet Project with representatives from Tennessee Shakespeare Company.
This place, it's extremely unique.
You are pushed to do things that you didn't know you could do because someone else saw it in you.
If you're with us for your whole 4 years here at GHS, you get a great foundation of amazing classes.
Try the priest.
The approach we take to whether it's the fall play or the spring musical is that the students are truly the ones that are making the magic happen.
Tell all the people. You put the work in off and on stage. Not only are you on stage acting and playing a part, you're working, you're pricking your fingers, sewing the costumes. You're learning how to make exotic makeup designs. You're learning how to build the set that you're going to be planted on.
And as you grow with us within the program, your skills continue to develop, and we build off your previous knowledge. And hopefully by the time you graduate, you're a well-rounded professional in a way, and you can move into any area that you'd like after high school and succeed.
We're running a 24-hour broadcast television station like no other school has done.
It is student run, it's student produced, it is student written, and it's student directed.
Here's to another 35 more years.
Students here get immersed in lots of different types of shows so that when they go out into the real world or to college, if this is what they want to pursue, they are so prepared.
Those lessons have also affected me in the ways that I would never even imagine.
It has shown me to be different and to, not settle for mediocrity. When you're producing a show, you want your show to be the best one it can be. You want it to be, a show to remember, a show that you want to look back on and say, I did that.
Yes, I did do this. Did I believe that I could do this? No, but because of all the support that I gained, I know that I can actually get this done.
I know that the skills I've learned here is something I'm never going to forget, and same with the experiences here.
From all of us here at GHS-TV, have a great day.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm Rachel Christopherson. The Tennessee Shakespeare Company believes that there is no age limit when it comes to acting. That's why it has provided many learning opportunities to people from around the world, from school tours to adult training. TSC's Romeo and Juliet Project is one of those learning opportunities. Here's a look at the award-winning project.
Violence, peer pressure, and prejudice. Just some of the many themes in Romeo and Juliet. There are also issues teens today face on a daily basis.
Tennessee Shakespeare, we believe that all words are onomatopoetic.
The Romeo and Juliet Project, created by the Tennessee Shakespeare Company, goes into classrooms filled with students directly affected by violence.
In Romeo and Juliet, these kids are 14, 15, 16 years old with weapons. And so it's great for us to kind of make these kids understand that these kids were very young and they had weapons.
My favorite part of the workshop was probably when they had a few people come out and play with these little swimming noodles as we pretended they were swords.
Can I go forward when my heart is here?
Teaching artists use the play's characters and its many pivotal decision moments as tools for freshman students to imagine and rehearse life-saving choices.
We have a text that's 400 years old.
Romeo, doff thy name, for thy name is no part.
We're dealing with kids killing each other over an airy word, right? People will look at you wrong. You've been named from another family and they don't like you because you're from this other family.
Because it was really fun to just get out and play and pretend to be a certain character and act how they would act, even though it was different from your own ways of acting.
I want you guys to look at each other and show me dignity.
During the Romeo and Juliet Project, freshman classes get 3 visits from the teaching artist. During these visits, students learn about non-violent conflict resolution.
My favorite part was when they modernized each part so that we could understand it a little better.
Sir.
Sir.
But I do bite my thumb, sir.
Seeing the actors perform the play and work with them in a classroom brings a whole new dimension to the study of Shakespeare. They actually get to see it be performed, and I think they learn a lot more from seeing it than just reading it.
Here to talk with us today about the educational opportunities at the Tennessee Shakespeare Company are Kiana Hawley, a company member, and Carmen Maria Mandley, Education Outreach Manager. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So I have participated in the Romeo and Juliet project myself, and not only is it insightful, it's also fun. How did the idea for this program come about?
Well, I think when Stephanie Shine, the education director, and Dan got together and saw the need for young people in Memphis to reconsider the moment that they choose to arm themselves. And I think the way that the most effective way they decided they could be of service
in Memphis is to help move that agenda along through the wisdom of William Shakespeare.
Well, the Romeo and Juliet Project has served over 17,000 students. What do you think has been the biggest benefit of exposing such a large number of students to this iconic play?
Wow, do you want to speak to that some too?
Sure.
Okay, I think the biggest benefit is, you know, not only watching these students really pick up what these words mean and what Shakespeare means. I think Shakespeare tends to scare a lot of students because the language is so complicated and they think it's another language, you know, and it's really been beneficial to expose them to a different language that's really so like ours today. It just sounds different.
I think one of the things that's really powerful about this particular Shakespeare play is its timeliness, its timelessness, the fact that it's a rite of passage for young people. And I think one of the things we talk about is the largesse of what's happening in adolescents' lives, you know, between the ages of 13 and 17. The only thing to really match that is the poetry of William Shakespeare. Most teenagers can identify with being in love. Most teenagers can identify with being bullied, you know, being in a fight, having parental expectations, sometimes having absent parents. It's a perfect story for people this age.
Well, Kiana, you mentioned that Shakespeare tends to scare young people. How does the Romeo and Juliet program cater to the younger generation?
We really cater to the younger kids by really making the process fun for them. We try to really get them involved, get them on their feet. Something that I learned, which I only really started learning more about Shakespeare the first year that I started with this company. And something that I learned is that Shakespeare is not meant to be read, it's meant to be played. And so I think it really helps them to move and get on their feet, and then they're really getting the language, and then they have that aha moment of, I get what's going on in this story.
Well, what kind of responses have you seen from students after participating in your program?
Oh man, my favorite response is we usually do 3 sessions with the classes and then we'll do the show. And normally, like the first day of class, they don't really know us. They're like, oh, it's the weird Shakespeare people, they're here. And then by the 3rd class, they don't want us to leave. They want us to come back. Are you gonna come back next week? And no, you know, we just have to do the show, and oh, that's it, and are you gonna come back next year? And so I really hope that we can expand this program past just the 9th graders and do things with 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, because I really think that they appreciate the work that we put in with them.
Well, what personal connection do you have to this program and its message?
Man, like I was saying earlier, I only really started learning Shakespeare a year ago, actually, is when I started with the company. And I didn't even think that I would be this much into the world of Shakespeare, or I didn't think that this would be my path, is to teach and educate others in Shakespeare, because I didn't really know much about it myself. And so now that I'm kind of on the other side of this fence and I'm teaching other kids who thought like me, like, I'm not gonna learn Shakespeare, and this is way too difficult, this is too hard. It's totally possible, because I was that student. I was the student that would say, I'm not gonna read Macbeth, I'm not gonna read Hamlet because it's too hard, it's difficult. And now I'm on the other side and I'm seeing the other students that were in the place that I was in, and so it makes me want to teach more and educate, like, you can do this.
Well, your Romeo and Juliet Project is a nationally acclaimed program. Why do you think it's gotten so much recognition?
I think because of the ethic and aesthetic of the program is not to make people into actors. It's to assist in the process of adolescents figuring out their voice, their relationship to violence, their relationship to each other, how to communicate more effectively. And I think because of that, we're not raising an army of actors, we're raising an army of community members that invest and care very deeply.
Would you like to speak on this?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with everything that she said. We are definitely not raising actors. We just want to get them to communicate with each other and then find out other things about themselves as well through this process.
Mm-hmm. Well, this project is only one of many outreach and educational opportunities that TSC offers. Why is this important for your company?
I think it's the center of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's our crown jewel, and I think that everything we do that stems out from this, the idea of Shakespeare in service, takes its pattern off of this program.
Mm-hmm. Well, can you talk about some of your play shops for students and teachers and what they can get out of them?
Well, yeah, sure. We offer a lot more actually than the play shops and for teachers and for students. We're actually in residence at Jail East. We're in residence at the Women's Prison. We're in residence at Hope Academy, which is the juvenile detention facility. We're in residence at the Veterans Hospital with inpatients on the PTSD and chemical dependency units. We do national tours, all from January all throughout the end of the school year. This year we're going to the Tempest, and right now we have 8 different states on that tour. We have a fellowship program where young professionals can come in and spend a year with us and focus on marketing or acting or education, and get to do the plays, get to do the play shops. The whole idea about the play shops we take into schools usually turn into residencies. It's usually not just a one shot. We like to go in time and time again to get a relationship with the students. It gets them up, it gets them speaking the text, it gets them understanding what they have in common with these characters so they're not so far away, and it gets them talking to one another in feelings and in poetry. And then when the larger issues come up, there's a safe space, there's a room where we can hold all of that. Mm-hmm. And as far as our teacher training goes, I go in, I worked at Shakespearean Company as well for a number of years, and I go in and I have 2 or 3 hours with a teacher, or 10 or 20 or 30, and we take them through, we give them some helpful tips to bring Shakespeare in a really accessible and fun way into that doesn't leave the students in the desk reading the play, mm-hmm. but gets them up, gets them active, gets them playing.
Well, Carmen and Kiana, we really appreciate all the work you've been doing for the Memphis community, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
The Tennessee Shakespeare Company has so much history behind it, and I hope today's show gave you a new appreciation for William Shakespeare. To continue to be updated on the latest events at TSC, visit their website at www.tnshakespeare.org. Remember, Crosstalk can be seen each week at 9:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 a.m. and 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Sundays. For more information on our programming, please check us out on the web at GHS-TV.org, where we are streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Rachel Christopherson. From all of us at GHS-TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.